morning, welcome to Mangard Rovers. My name is Shaun. We're going to digest everything that's happened in game week 7 in the Premier League this weekend. As ever, I'm joined by Phil and Nathan.
How do, folks?
Hope you both had a nice weekend, enjoyed the football.
Did, thank you.
Enjoyed every moment of it.
Good, so plenty to talk about this weekend, and it all kicks off on Friday night with Bournemouth at home to Fulham. Nathan, we didn't get your prediction, unfortunately. Phil, you had 2-1
Apologies.
down, I had 2-2. Let's start with yourself, Phil. 2-1, predicted the result correctly, unfortunately not the score. Point for yourself, though.
Well, we knew Bournemouth were on a bit of a high, didn't we? Kind of flying high. To be honest, I mean, for the first 65 minutes, it looked like we were completely wrong, didn't it? Like it looked like a pretty dull Friday night, to be honest. And it all kicked off towards the last part of the second half, didn't it? Which was good. So, yeah, broadly speaking, I mean, the game kind of went as we thought it would, didn't we? Bournemouth on a really rich vein of form. Fulham seem a little bit up and down at the minute. I know that they're a bit caught up in whether luck's going their way or not, really. They do seem to be a bit of an emotional team at the moment, to be fair. And whereas Bournemouth seem very system-driven, very reliable, and in a really good place. The place in the table would tell you that. So, and obviously Semenyo's firing on all cylinders, isn't he? He's having a right start to the season. So, a little bit like a couple of other teams we'll talk about tonight, I suppose. It's probably quite an awkward international break for him, really, because it breaks a bit of routine. But no, Bournemouth looked really strong. And broadly, I guess, as I said, I thought they'd have too much for Fulham. And they did. And it looked reasonably straightforward for them, to be honest. So, yeah, it was quite a lively start to the weekend in the end. What looked like was going to be quite quiet originally. But, yeah, strong result for them. So
it was a strong performance by Bournemouth. Semenyo with a great performance again. Probably...
I love it when he arrives at Arsenal.
Quoted by a lot of pundits this weekend as the best player in the Premier League right now. Nathan, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think he looks very strong, doesn't he? I mean, I think his first goal, I mean, the angle he scores at, I think you have to question the keeper a little bit. But it's still a good goal. I think I was saying to Phil off air, I think the one that for me was Kluivert's goal. I mean, probably one of the goals of the weekend. I mean, he took that really well. I think if you're a Fulham fan, you're very disappointed. Obviously, you know you've got the game where you needed to be after 60 odd minutes, and then to go on and concede 3 goals is extremely disappointing. And Fulham are just on a little bit of a downward spiral at the minute. Obviously, we beat them last week, but. You know, 1-0 after 65 minutes, you think you're probably going to get a minimum of a draw at least, but to concede that. But yeah, I totally agree. Semenyo at the minute, you know, if you've got him in your fantasy football team, he's earning you points. So he just looks strong and sharp. You can tell that the way he's playing, he just looks confident, doesn't he? So, you know, any striker that's got confidence is always going to score goals, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was a good win for Bournemouth. Really good win. After that, we had Saturday morning kicks off. We had afternoon Leeds at home to Spurs. Nathan, again, we didn't get your prediction, but Phil, you had 2-2. I had a 1-0 down for a Leeds win, disappointing for me.
A Leeds win?
But Spurs did it in the end, didn't they? So, what are your thoughts on that?
Do you know, Spurs are looking... It's what we said, isn't it? It's going to be the battle between Spurs and Thomas Frank all season, this, where, like, you know, they're showing that kind of battling, dogged, fighting spirit that you'd expect to see from a Thomas Frank team, but packaged up in the flawed, fragile, you know, ego boost Tottenham Hotspur. So, I mean, 2 lucky goals. You'd be really narked as a Leeds fan, I think, because I think Leeds actually played pretty well, to be honest. And as I say, 2 deflected goals. I think it was the same defender for both as well, wasn't it? So he'll be pretty narked. But I suppose, to be fair to Tottenham, they kept on grinding away. It was away from home. I think I heard after the match from Thomas Frank said something like Leeds hadn't lost at home for 13 or 14 games or something. So, I mean, you know, it's a tough place to go. Clearly going to be a tough place to go for everybody. Elland Road's got a really hostile atmosphere. So, you know, said a few teams, it's job done for Spurs, and they've ground out a result where last season they certainly wouldn't have ground it out. And, you know, didn't look like at times they might grind it out this time around, but it's a really good result for them because they were up against it, and yet they've come away with 3 points and left in a strong position. So Thomas Frank's doing really well, considering some of the crazy overreactions from some of the Spurs fans to those 3 draws, really. And suddenly, you know, he went from being amazing after 2 games to, oh my God, he's just crap after 3. Just get a grip. Like, let the season go 10 games and see where you're at. But at the end of the day, I think it looks like he's put some real structure into Tottenham, which is exactly what that team needed. They were scoring loads of goals last season, but they looked completely just gung-ho and not understanding how to actually structure a football match without It's still scoring quite a few. But now they look like they can structure the match. So, yeah, I think it was a really good win for Tottenham because I think it's a win that you would almost guarantee to say they would not have got last season. So that's a step forward for them in terms of where they want to be overall in the league as it goes. Because you've got to, the 38 games in the league, you've got to grind out results like that at times, haven't you, to make sure you finish in a decent position at the end of it. So I think it was really good. Nothing obviously too showy, but just a solid performance.
I think the key for Leeds this year is definitely grabbing them points at home. It is always going to be a tough place for any team to go, as you said. Is there anything else, Nathan, that you've seen from Leeds that can potentially help them this season?
Yeah, I mean, back up what Phil says, two fortunate goals for Spurs, wasn't it? I think Leeds did play well, probably deserved more out of the game. But Tottenham do grind out the results, and this is what happens in the Premier League. You can play well, against good teams and still end up losing, and that's the harsh reality of the Premier League. You've got to be at it for 90 minutes. I think Calvert-Lewin's getting a bit stronger. I know he had a couple of chances in save, but he just looks like he's starting to get his confidence back, and that's always a positive because he can be a real handful. I think Vicario makes a real good save from Pirro right at the end as well.
Yeah, right at the very end, wasn't
it? But no, I think, judging at the minute, I know we're only a few games in, but Leeds still are looking good. I know that they did lose, but, I think that, they're showing a lot of fight and a lot of resilience, more so than some of the promoted teams last season. So, yeah, I think they'll be all right, Leeds. I think they've got the spirit together. It was just an unfortunate 2 deflected goals. You play football yourself, so when it's a deflected goal, there's nothing you can do. So, yeah, they can count themselves a bit unlucky, but a good win for Tottenham. And like Phil says, last season they'd have probably got turned over with the confidence with how they were playing. So, fair play to Thomas Frank. Tottenham come away with 3 points.
Talking of fights, there's definitely going to be a title fight on this year by the look of things and the way the results are going. Liverpool dropping points and Arsenal, obviously, beating West Ham 2-0. Phil, must be happy with that, surely.
Well, I'm not so sure I'm happy with you saying it's going to be a title fight. I think it's going to be a walk in the park. This is going to be over by round 3. Yeah, I mean, as one pundit put, I think if it'd been a boxing match, they didn't even lay a glove on us, did they? I don't think David Raya had to get off the coach, really, to be honest. He could have stayed where he was in changing room. But, that's the difference this season. You look at the bench we had, you look at the players who came on, you look at the aggressive way Arteta lined up, with obviously starting off with Odegaard, Eze and Rice in the midfield on top of 3 attackers. And that's what we need to do. We need to take those teams who we should be knocking to one side easily and knock them to the one side easily. I remember it haunts me last season. I was walking in the Dales and it haunts me as I got back to Signal to find out West Ham had beaten Arsenal 1-0 in the result that effectively took the title away from us, or took the title race away from us. And that's what we need to fix this season. We need to just put those teams to bed, efficiently. I wouldn't say quickly because obviously we dragged out the second goal for a while, but it was efficiently done. West Ham never looked like a danger. They never looked like threatening. And yeah, it was a pretty regulation of win as you could possibly get. And then, like you say, roll into the evening, and I won't cover that game particularly, but obviously then that leaves us sat top of the table going international break, and football is just insane in the modern world, isn't it? You go back 3 weeks and Arteta's under pressure and it's all over, and Arsenal lost too much ground to Liverpool, and you can't afford to lose Liverpool, and you can't afford to draw Man City, and suddenly we're sat top with, as I remember 6 months ago, not even 6 months ago, every pundit pretty much universally agreed Arsenal had the toughest start to the season out of all the top 4. And there we are at the end of it, sat top of the table. So, do you know what I mean? It's about, all right, it would have been nice not to us concede that Szoboszlai goal, but you'd say that's pretty much a perfect 7 games, really, to start off with the hardest set of fixtures and then sit top of the league at the end of it. And I think only Manchester City have scored more than us, and I think nobody's conceded less than us. It's a phenomenal goal difference to have, which obviously Liverpool all last season topped us on goal difference. I think their goal difference is 4 at the minute, and ours is 11. So, and we look strong, we look strong. We'll get stronger. Gyökeres looks to be getting better and better. He was good against your boy Shaun the other day, and he was he was good against West Ham. I think it's interesting that it's your boys and West Ham both doubled up on him, which gave Saka a lot more space. And if he does that alone, he's helping produce. So yeah, about as regulation as it comes, really, dead straightforward. I don't know what I'd predicted on it, but I pretty much have predicted an Arsenal win, I would imagine.
You did. You put 3-0, as did I. We're both 3-0, so both got a point each for that.
The only thing, I tell you what, the only thing I'll say, fuming with Gyökeres, fuming, because we had a debate, didn't we? You went with Walter Marder, and I went with Gyökeres for fantasy football. And what does he think he's doing? Giving Saka the penalty just because it's his 200th match? No, be selfish. Get your goal. Forget it. Anyway, but yeah, regulation win, dead straightforward. Nothing particularly showy, but enjoyable to have a nice, comfortable, risk-free afternoon, really. So it enabled me to enjoy the Chelsea match a lot more in the evening, regardless of that result. It enabled me to enjoy it, watching it a lot more. So no, it was job done. So.
Nathan, is there any hope for West Ham this season?
Yes, I think there can be. I think obviously the change of managers happened probably at the right time now. I think if you're a West Ham fan now, you can probably be encouraged. I know me and Phil had a discussion off air that despite West Ham sort of not laying a glove on, they still looked a little bit more solid than probably what they've done under Potter. So you can see, yeah, you know, like you'd have seen them probably go, you know, the chances Arsenal had, you know, maybe a few weeks ago that might have been 5 or 6-0, but you know it was 2-0. So yeah, I think West Ham they do have a good set of squad players, and I think Nuno is a very good manager. It'd be interesting to see now what he does with the team and how they react to his style. So
they've got some very important fixtures after the international break, haven't they? They've got Burnley and Sunderland. They've got 3 or 4 teams around them where you're thinking if they don't pick up points in those 4 matches, then he might have a problem.
Nuno's looking at that, isn't he? He's looking at these fixtures and going, look, we're going to go to the Emirates. We'll give it a go. If we get anything other than a defeat, it's a bonus. So I think they can be encouraged.
Those next 4 fixtures make it seem much more sensible, the timing of sacking Potter, because you kind of go, well, he's had 2 free swings. You know, no one expected him to win last week. No one's expecting him to win this week. He's now got the international break, so he's got most of the players for 2 weeks. Like, you would expect now he's got some time to then hit those 4 fixtures, having a chance to play a bit more.
Yeah, it was a sensible appointment, wasn't it? I think he was, obviously after becoming available, what he has done, what he did at Forest, can he bring that to West Ham? So it's just trying to find that perfect balance for the team that they've got, because West Ham have still got some good attacking players. You know, Bowen's a threat, Paquetá's a very good player, we know, but it's just making sure that, you know, like Phil says, they can pick up the results against the teams that are around them at the minute, because if they don't, then Nuno then will find himself under more pressure. So, but I think they will be all right.
Yeah. Well, if anyone was watching last week, they'll have thought they'll have been watching United stand the amount of time we give Man U last week. So let's keep it short and sweet on this subject this week. Man United won 2-0 at Sunderland. Phil, you had Sunderland winning 2-0. I had Sunderland winning 1-0. Nathan, what would you have put down for that game if you'd have had a go this week?
Probably predicted a United win. I think
2-0. Any chance?
Yeah. The thing is, you know, despite that, I still think that the result for me as a Man United fan, it's just papering over cracks. I think it's quite to see it. I think if they hadn't have got that, I think you probably would have seen Amorim sacked. So obviously they get the results. I mean, it was a fairly standard performance on it from Man United. They get the 3 points, which is all that matters in football, doesn't it? So you can see that the fact that, you know, obviously if you're, you know, a positive, Sesko scoring 2 weeks in a row, that's a positive. You want your striker to be scoring goals. I think the goalkeeper made his debut, doesn't he? The replacement for Onana, you know, he keeps a clean sheet, looks solid. But it's all right looking solid against a promoted team. You've got to do it when the big boys start coming to town, and that's when you're going to be judged. Obviously, Mason Mount scored, didn't he, as well? First goal for a few months or wherever it was. Took his goal quite well. So, yeah, it was a straightforward performance. It was, you know, I don't think Sunderland offered much, really, and Man United capitalised on that. So, but yeah, I'd have predicted a Man United win.
Phil, what do you think? Is Amorim still under pressure?
Well, I don't see how he can't be. I mean, at the end of the day, oh God, I sound like that, Jim Radcliffe. But at the end of the day, how can you not be under pressure? You've got the worst win percentage of any permanent manager ever, and you've still not, after, is it over nearly a year now? In November he came in, didn't he? So after 11 months, you still haven't won back-to-back games. I could win back-to-back games in the Premier League by just chance. Like, you've got to be under pressure, haven't you? Like, it's just shit from top to bottom that Manchester United haven't won back-to-back Premier League games in 11.
It's embarrassing, isn't it, Phil? That's what it is. It's embarrassing.
It's just bad. And the Man United fans are absolutely mental. I've read some absolute crap today. like Sesko's the best striker in the league. He's cooking. Oh, we're only just up. Man United are going to win the league. We're only 6 points off top. Get a fucking grip. Honestly, you can't win 2 games back to back. Like, you've just beaten a promoted side. Who cares? Like, with the great Sunderland looks strong, fair enough. But we've said before on here, and others people have said it. Sunderland, like Leeds, like Burnley, if they've got any hope, it's going to be like their home form. Like, there's no way Sunderland looked at going away to Old Trafford at the start of this season and thought they'd get points. So to get super excited about, it's like when they got all carried away about biffing Burnley on like the 94th minute with a penalty. Like, get a grip. It's you know what? So I was disappointed in Sunderland, I'm not going to lie, because I think the reason we called them for a win last week was we were saying they were quite an organised team, and Man United struggle against structure and struggle against organisation. And probably for the first time, certainly at the match I've really paid attention to for Sunderland, didn't really see a great deal of that. And I thought really Man United, the goals, they picked them apart a little bit too easily, to be honest, and was probably a bit. I'd probably been a bit flat as a Sunderland fan watching that, because I'd probably expected my team to put up a little bit more of a fight, to be fair.
Just made it easy for you, didn't they?
Yeah, maybe it's a bit of a reality check. I don't know, but Man United fans need to get a grip. I mean, Amorim has to be under pressure. Quite simply, the performances are appalling. And let's not forget, it's only 3 weeks and he's got smashed by Grimsby. Like, come on.
Let's make sure we remind everybody about that.
You've got to get a dose of reality. There's so much work to do for that club. And I don't know, you know what I mean? Fair play. He might do it. I just think, there is absolutely, when you look at football now, sport now for everybody, it's all about stats, isn't there? There's not one statistic that backs that Amorim is any good. I mean, they were all whinging about how shit Erik ten Hag was, and Amorim's made them worse. So how can you not be under pressure?
Ten Hag's stats are actually quite impressive when it comes to.
Haven't they got Liverpool and Man City next?
Yeah.
Like, they're going to get absolutely annihilated. Like, and I just think it's one of them. Do you know what? The trouble with Man United fans is they still think Alex Ferguson's in charge. That's their problem. What they need to remember is they're a mid-table club, right? You're a mid-table club. Get over it. Get used to it. Your days at the top are done. Like, done.
To be fair, guys, we on the YouTube channel we've got a live poll here. Top 4. Who's going to win it? Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City. I can't remember what else to put in, but there's the top 3 on there. And Man United aren't going to feature in that poll for a long time, I should imagine.
No, they are not.
Let's move on to the evening's game on Saturday night, which was Chelsea against Liverpool. Caicedo with a fantastic strike. Brilliant performance.
It was a
in his
fantasy
team this weekend, and some good points. Chelsea won 2-1. Phil, you had 2-1 for Liverpool. I actually got this right. I got 2-1 Chelsea. Just had a feeling Liverpool under a bit of pressure, 3 in a row. I called it. Did you see the game, Phil? Did you watch it?
I did watch it. I did, and do you know what? For all I've lauded how my boys are the best team in the country, I'd much rather not be the favourites. I'm not going to lie. I'd much rather on Liverpool's coattails and not have any pressure. So which is why I thought Liverpool would do it. But I suppose the first 3 or 4 matches, I was certainly more in the camp of Liverpool were kind of showing what champions show. They weren't playing very well, but they were doing what they needed to do. They were getting it across the line. They won that late winner against your boys, Shaun, the late winner against my boys. And you just kind of got, are they? We've talked a lot as a group about, there's a lot of work for Arne Slot to do to kind of bed in the new play. There's a lot of change at Liverpool, a lot of leave-ins of players who've been there for a long time. Even though, like, you might argue from a distance, there were fringe players like Darwin Núñez, that he played a lot, and kind of knew how the team worked. So there's a lot of work for him to do to gel those players in, because it doesn't matter how expensive they are. They've still got to get a grip. Although I saw, I listened to a hilarious clip of Emmanuel Petit today on TalkSport, who was challenged with, did it used to take time for you to settle in when you came into the Premier League? He said, "Oh yeah, it took me a while. It took me at least 2 weeks to get my head around it." Like, oh my God, 2 weeks. But yeah, I mean, he's got work to settle them all in, and I think that's clearly becoming a challenge. And obviously, that whether I'm not close enough to Liverpool. It's always interesting when you talk about other people's clubs, isn't it? Because I heard talk about Konate. He's had his head turned by Real Madrid, and I know Andy Robertson's struggling, and Kirkes seems to be struggling, and obviously Trent's gone. So they've got a lot of defensive problems. And that's probably showing some of the strain that we all now see on Van Dijk, really. But nothing away from Chelsea. That Chelsea played better in the first half. Liverpool came, as you would expect for the champions, came back into it in the early part of the second half, didn't they? But it did have a feel of Liverpool almost seemed like they'd settled for the draw with about 10, 15 minutes to go. And Chelsea didn't. Chelsea were pushing and pushing and pushing. And I mean, Salah had an absolute mare, didn't he? But for his standards, anyway, some of those finishes were just awful. It was like vintage Mo Salah up to the point of hitting the shot, and then like, oh look, Darwin Núñez is back. Like, what on earth? But like, he thought he hit the target with one of them, but that was probably the disappointing thing. I'm as disappointed as an Arsenal fan. None of it was disappointing really, but if I'm thinking as a Liverpool fan, I'd be disappointed. It felt like Chelsea wanted the win more. Like, it seemed at the end of the game that Chelsea wanted it more, and that would be my worry as a Liverpool fan. Not the rest of the work Slot's got to do, but that desire just seems to be lacking in the last 10 minutes, which was really strange, because they've obviously showed a lot of desire in this first part of the season, and as you touched on before, Nate, I think maybe before we came on air, it's a fickle world, isn't it? Like 3 losses and suddenly Arne Slot's under pressure. I mean, he can't be under pressure. He won the bloody Premier League last season. Like, they've still got one of the favourites of Champions League now, but 3 losses is difficult for any club to take, innit? I mean, I suppose it makes it for. I mean, Sky Sports must be absolutely bloody loving it, because it makes for a massive game when they go to Man United now, doesn't it? Because either way, you're either going to be able to talk all about the fact that Amorim's embarrassed and Liverpool smash them out the park, or, oh my God, Man United have just beaten Liverpool to win back-to-back games in the Premier League. So either way, there's a massive story in there somewhere. You watch, there'll be some shitty 0-0 draw now. But I think Chelsea played really well, and nullified Liverpool. I think, and you saw they. And I think the problem for Liverpool is, unless they get on top of the defensive work, people are going to target those fullback areas more and more and more. Because I think, was it Gravenberch and Szoboszlai that were playing the back 4 in the last 10 minutes? Like, what are you doing with 2 midfielders playing the back 4? Like, and Andy Robertson looked. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the cutaway just before the cross comes in, but he's got his hands on his knees, like he's out of breath. He's some 50-year-old man. Like, it's just really worrying signs defensive for Liverpool. So again, maybe the international breaks come at the right time, but then a lot of their players will shoot off across the world and not get any real time on the training ground. So, he just needs to do something to steady the ship. But I mean, the nonsense that is crisis and kind of Arne Slot's this and that. He lost 3 games, and let's face it, Galatasaray, that would never have been a penalty in the Premier League. So then that would have been 0-0, which, all right, it's still a draw, but it's not a loss, is it? So I think just that desire at the last 10 minutes would worry me as a Liverpool fan. But maybe the international breaks at the right time, they can just reset, just refocus. A lot of them will bounce in the international scene because they're obviously seasoned professionals, and they'll have a couple of good performances. And I think it'd be interesting what they bounce back. But it's it was a good match, really good match. And like you say, Caicedo's finish was fabulous. And to be fair, the lad at the end getting his first goal, it was again, you've got to gamble, haven't you? It was very easy.
It was the left back that was marking him, though, because the
Andy Robertson.
Was it Robertson? I didn't.
Yeah.
So
that's what I'm still worrying about it.
He'd
come on to shore it up for Kirkes going off.
Yeah, it was poor. I mean, again, but you switch off again, and you get punished, don't you? So
it was so unlike Andy Robertson because he was the more solid defender out of him and Trent, wasn't he? So
is this just a transitional period for Slot then? Or has he got too many square pegs for round holes?
So I would have said it was just transitional, but I can't get my head around the fullback problems. The fullback problems seem to be massive. Kirkes seems to have become a shadow of the player who was at Bournemouth. Andy Robertson, like I say, seems like he's aged about 50 years. Frimpong doesn't seem to get into grips with the league. Obviously, Trent's gone. Like, the very fact that Szoboszlai has played right back for 4 out of the last 6 matches. I mean, what are you wasting Szoboszlai?
He was injured though, only Frimpong. I think he was injured. I think he's only just come back. So, but
I mean,
but still, though,
that's what he's got to get on top of those fullback issues because, like I say, Chelsea target the fullbacks, and if Chelsea are going to target the fullbacks, other teams will target the fullbacks, and like you said, Nathan, there's enough good teams in the Premier League that they've only got to get the right pass once, and they'll hurt you. So, I think I think he's got some work to do defensively. I think not getting where he is a huge. I think there's a lot of commentators saying that it's far bigger miss than not. They don't need Isak. They never needed Isak.
It's just become the wrong topic and a distraction at Liverpool now. The same way it was a distraction at Newcastle. You know, I don't know if you guys have heard similar things as to what I've heard over the weekend with Liverpool fans turning on players like Salah, Van Dijk for
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. The thing is, it is ridiculous. They've lost 3 games. It's not ideal. It's games that you would have expected them to put more fight again and again. Galatasaray is always difficult to go away. Chelsea difficult. You know, last year the ground results. Like what Phil says, it's a test for Klopp now because he never really had it last season, did it? Because his team won everything at a canter and no one made it difficult for them, really. So this is Slot's test now. He spent big money on some players that need to come into the team and they're not performing at the minute, or they're not performing as well as what they should be. So this is going to be a test of character for Slot now to say, well, actually, I've got to try and make it work somehow, because if he doesn't, you know, you see what a well-oiled machine Arsenal are at the minute, and City are coming behind, and Chelsea, you know, they're going to be in the mix as well. So Slot's going to have to look at this after the international break, saying, right, these players need to win, and they need to settle in quick. And it is difficult sometimes because it does, you know, when players do come over from foreign leagues, it shocks them how quick the Premier League is. And it takes them a while, but, you know, these are world-class international players, and they should be coming to the Premier League, and within certainly these 3 or 4 games should be getting used to the speed of the Premier League. But, you know, Kirkes has come from Bournemouth. Bournemouth had a really good season last year, but he just doesn't seem like he's comfortable playing in that position, even though it's his natural position. Maybe the team's too big for him. I don't know. Frimpong, I know he got injured. He's come over. He doesn't look anything. Wirtz doesn't look anything like a 120 million quid player. Isak, I think you can obviously say he didn't have a pre-season because of all the speculation at Newcastle. So it's yet to be judged for me. But you know what I did find.
The assist, to be fair.
Yeah, it was a good assist.
If he meant it looked like he did.
Liverpool sort of knocked on the door, didn't they? But they just couldn't get that result. And I think, you know, for Chelsea, fantastic result. But again, Chelsea a little bit inconsistent, but it's a win that they needed. I think the goal from Caicedo were a beautiful goal. I mean, I think it was Liverpool goalkeeper's debut. I mean, he ain't stopping that. I don't care how good you are. And I think Fernandes nearly wins it at the end, and he hits the post before the goal. So, but no, it was a good result for Chelsea. I think, you know, like Phil says, as an Arsenal fan, you'll be very happy going into the international break after seeing that result.
Yeah, no, a really good performance by Chelsea, especially the tempo in the second half as well. Towards the latter stages, it was.
I think the reason people are so happy with it is we all view Chelsea, certainly in this room, as a Jekyll and Hyde team. So they don't really worry you for competing for the league in the long term, because you just don't think they can string 38 solid results together, or even 32 solid. You know what I mean? You just got the feeling they've got a shit result in them at any point in time. On an off day,
and they've got a good result in them, like what they did on Saturday.
Yeah, no, exactly. You think like prime Manchester City, they didn't have a shit result in them. Like it was a shock if Manchester City. When, you know, I know they've never gone unbeaten, but it was a shock when Manchester City dropped a game. You're not surprised if you hear Chelsea have lost. You just think, oh shit, Chelsea got off the bus rather than good Chelsea got off the bus. Like, they can be obviously clearly the best team in the world, but they can go and like drop points completely unexpectedly. So I don't think anyone thinks they can pull it together for 38 games to win the league, but everyone acknowledges they can beat anybody.
And then the Mourinho type celebration from Maresca as well, running down the line. Quite good to see. I like to see that.
Maybe it's part and parcel of being a young team, isn't it? Like, you know, they've got that eagerness to prove themselves, but they don't necessarily have that 38 game work ethic to grind just yet. And you know, there is still worries. I mean, it's one of them, minute where when you're high, it looks great, but like, you know, there's got to be question marks with people like Garnacho's tracking back and stuff like that. He looks much better going forward at United, but he still ain't ever going to want to track back. So how many of those players can you carry it in a minute? You know, Fernandes and Caicedo clearly both looking like they're worth £100 million price tags at the minute. They're both playing really, really well. Really well. And I think if you look on fantasy football, I think both are in the top 4 midfield point scorers, you know, which says everything, doesn't it, as to how effective Chelsea's midfield is right now. So
Palmer's still to come back as well, isn't he? He's been
Palmer's injured. Yeah, not bad to have him coming back, is it? But yeah, no, great performance for Chelsea, but it must make you tear your hair out as a Chelsea fan to know they can play like that and know they can push Liverpool like that, and then see the performance from the week before and the week before, and how does that happen? But I think cracking result from cracking.
So, well, let's move on to Sunday's fixtures. We had we'll let Nathan take the lead on this one. Villa and Burnley. Phil, you had 2-1 Villa. I had 2-0 Villa. You score maximum 4 points on that one. Nathan, I didn't.
Come on, I had faith in you, mate.
I didn't get your prediction, but I'm pretty sure you'll have put Villa down for a win. So I'm going to give you a bonus token point.
No, you dare! He said Villa 4-0.
But yeah, Nathan, you must be impressed. It was a good performance.
So yeah, I mean, we're saying to Phil, how football can change in the matter of 3 to 4 weeks, because at the start of the season we just didn't look like our shadow of ourselves, couldn't pick up a result, drawing. But all of a sudden we scrape a scrappy 1-0 again. Well, scrappy 1-0. We grind a result out in Europe, and then that reflects onto the pitch by going to beat Fulham, and then obviously beating Feyenoord on Thursday, which was a cracking result, and then against Burnley, I think we made it easy for ourselves, and we got the result that we needed. Marlon looked brilliant. The only thing I say about Marlon is it's just he needs to add the consistency. So it's okay scoring 2 against Burnley, but I want to see him now against Spurs. I want to see him, if he does start, I want to see that sort of energy and performance against like the bigger teams, because we've not really seen that from Marlon. So it was very comfortable for Villa. I don't think Burnley offered very much. I think I'm really disappointed at the fact that we conceded a goal, sort of to make it a little bit nervy late on. I mean, the marking were terrible. You can see that. I think it's Kamara. He leaves his man and leaves Konsa with 2 men. And obviously Konsa can't mark 2. The Burnley player scores. Really frustrating. But we looked good. Morgan Rogers came back. He looked a little bit better. He got the assist. Interesting stat. I think it's since April, no more. And then again, it seems like a mad stat, but since April of last season, Morgan Rogers is still the highest assist with 8. I think Salah's just below him at 7. So it was good to see Roger. He's still got a long way to rekindle the form he had last season, but it was a start. So I'm extremely happy. I think the international break has come at the wrong time for us this time. Came at the right time for us at the beginning of September. So I'm happy there. And all you can do when you're under pressure, the only thing you can do to relieve that is win, and that's what we've done. So we've got 3 really tough fixtures in the league now. So I think we've got Spurs, Man City, and Liverpool. So this is going to be a very, very tough set of fixtures, and obviously we've got 2 European games sandwiched in between that. I think we go away to Go Ahead Eagles, and I think we play Maccabi Tel Aviv at home in the Europa League. So it's going to be a tough test for us, but I'm not saying we're back to the team that we were last season, but I do think we are showing confidence, and we're playing like a team. It was good to see that we had Amadou and Arna come back after a lengthy layoff. Ross Barkley was back as well. And whether they start or not, it's a different story. But it's just having that strength on the bench and bringing these players on at times when you need some depth. And the thing we've not had that in the last few weeks. So I'm impressed that Unai Emery. I always knew that Unai Emery there's no doubt in my mind, because I've said this before. He's a world-class manager, and he can get a tune out of the team. But we've a long way to go. But we can just keep winning and keep grinding out results. So yeah, I'm really happy for Burnley. I think again disappointing that you didn't really. I think they had a chance in the first half. I think Martinez does well. Whether he saves it or just shaves the post. And then they had the goal, so they didn't really offer much else. So if I'm a Burnley fan, I'm thinking, you're probably expecting to get turned over at Villa. But out of all the promoted teams, they're the ones with the least amount of points at the minute. I think, they're on 4 points or something. Is it 4 points? I don't know, maybe. But
not sure.
Yeah, so they're on the least amount of points. They're in the bottom 3, aren't they? So you're incredibly frustrated. But, it's still be encouraged. Burnley will, look at the home form to try and get points and try and climb up the table. But from a Villa perspective, I'm very happy.
Phil, should you be worried if you're a Burnley fan?
I think you've got to be aware as a promoted team fan, haven't you? I think you know, that they're still going away to a team that missed out on the Champions League by a whisker. Do you know what I mean? Like, you got to keep it in perspective. Like, yes, they've spent a lot of money. Yes, Villa haven't been on the best start to the season they've ever had, but fundamentally they missed out on the Champions League by a frustrating VAR technicality. Well, it was a VAR technicality, wasn't it? Fundamentally, like, and that's the difference between Champions League and not for Villa. So let's keep it in perspective. It's a promoted team away at effectively what was a team that was good enough to be in the Champions League last season, almost. So I wouldn't be overly worried about losing to a team like that. And you've only lost 2-1. It's not like you got smashed off the park 4-5-0, is it? Like, and they did kind of what a promoted team would want to do, as frustrating as it is for Nathan, that they've gone and scored a set piece. So and they've hung in there when Villa put them under massive pressure. So I think that suggests they didn't lose track of their fighting spirit. They didn't. I do think they're going to struggle to score enough goals, and I do think, probably from what we've seen out of the 3 promoted teams, they're the ones that are most at risk of slipping into trouble over the course of the season. Because I suppose right now, if you asked me to give you 3 teams that were worse than Burnley, I might struggle, because I think I'd lean. Well, yeah, the Wolves, yeah, but I think to get to 3, I could give you Wolves, but
I fight over the weekend, though, didn't they?
Maybe the draws aren't enough, are they? They're just not enough. Like, and to be so close to winning it and let it slip is what you expect to see from teams that get relegated. Yeah, how many times last season did we hear the excuses from Ipswich, from Southampton? Oh, we played really well, the performance was amazing. We're just lacking a little. Bullshit! You didn't get 3 points. Wolves should have got 3 points on the weekend. They should have seen that game out. They should have put 10 men behind the ball and just blanked it for the last 10 minutes, because they desperately needed a win, and they couldn't do it. And that's why they're going to struggle, because they struggle to keep teams out of their goal, and you're always going to struggle if you can't keep a clean sheet. So,
but Brighton's. I mean, they had some chances, didn't they, Wolves? But I've said this over and over again. Wolves are in serious trouble. They just look to not win a game. What this season is incredibly frustrating. I know they got unlucky against Spurs last week. Obviously, Spurs equalising very late on, but still, it's just a classic example of if you sell your best players and don't replace them with like for like, this, you are always going to be playing a very, very dangerous game. And the owner, for me, is still to be. I think the Wolves fans are still very much undecided. I mean, I had a conversation with an old college friend. He's a Wolves fan, and he's I think already he thinks their fate is sealed, and I think I probably would agree with him.
Well, they're talking about Wolves. I may as well move on to it. It finished 1 apiece on Sunday. Phil, we both had 3-1 for a Brighton win, and yeah, it was 1 apiece. How vital was that point, or is it, like you say, is it not enough at a point?
It's not enough. Like, you look at, I'd tell you from a first-hand perspective last season, I can sit and laud how few games that Arsenal lost, but the reason we lost the title to Liverpool is we had a shitload of draws, and they didn't. When they lost, they lost. When they won, they won. Draws aren't enough. Well, put it this way, what do we all say? 40 points is the magic number. Draw all 38 matches, what does that give you? Not 40. So, it's not enough, and to be so close to winning it and not be able to see it out. And I know Brighton created a lot. I was saying to Nate before we came on, Brighton have created a lot of chances in every match they've played in this season. They might not have taken the chances, but they've created chances.
It was a cracking header from Van Hecker, was a brilliant header.
They've created chances, so they're going to create a lot of chances. You're close to the finish line. You know that the lift it would have given you to go into the international break, having won your match before going into it. And they still couldn't see it out. It still wasn't enough. I just think it doesn't bode well. I think, like Nathan says, they've sold their best players and they've not replaced them. And sooner or later, we've seen it time after time after time with teams in the past. It caught with Southampton back in the day. It caught with West Ham. It caught with Leicester City more recently. Like, it catches up with teams if you think you can sell your best players and wing it with
bringing some random players from Europe. Yeah. It doesn't work. You get the odd player that's decent, but it's just not good enough. And Wolves, for me, when they first came up under Nuno, had a fantastic squad. I mean, some of the players, have gone on to better things. Obviously,
like the Portuguese squad, wasn't it?
But obviously, tragically, one of them's no longer here. But that squad that they had were fantastic. They were up there challenging for Europe. I mean, they were. I hate to admit it, but they were top dogs of the Midlands for a couple of seasons. And then they've gone from that to being like literally now, like they're on the cusp. And even this early in the Premier League, I'll be very, very shocked if they're not in the bottom three come May next year. So they're playing a very dangerous game. Strand Larsen hit the post. I know he probably should have done better in my opinion, because the keeper's already beat. So they've created chances. So if you want to sort of look at a positive, they did create a few decent chances, Wolves, but like Brighton showing that mentality of going 1-0 down, switch off, bang, header, it's 1-1. But if you're Brighton, you're probably looking at a game as you're probably disappointed, because you probably were looking at that before as to getting a win. So, but yeah, Wolves in serious trouble.
I think so too.
Yeah, very much so.
If there's any Wolves fans out there listening, joining, tell us where's it going wrong. What do you want to see happen at your club? Get involved. Everton Palace was another Sunday 2:00 kickoff. Turned into the Jack Grealish show in the end.
Palace missed. I mean, I watched the highlights. Palace missed a load of chances. They missed a load of chances. I mean, but this is the classic example again of the Premier League. If you do not take your chances, you run that risk of not getting a result out of the game. So Palace, and I mean, I don't know what he was doing. I mean, I think it's a penalty.
It's an awful tackle, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I always got the brass to get up and start complaining that it's not.
The only thing I can think, to be fair to him, when you look at his legs, he doesn't actually swing his legs up. So I think as he's sliding, he sees the attacker and he tries not to swing his legs up. It's too late. His momentum carries him into him and just flattens him.
It's a definite penalty.
They looked dead on their feet, didn't they? That last 20 minutes, they looked absolutely dead on their feet.
But I think that the penalty then turns the game, doesn't it? Because then it gives Everton the belief for them to go on and try and get a result, and then obviously it's a Jack. I mean, it's the player just kicks it onto his shin, doesn't it? So yeah.
All I heard when I saw that was fantasy football points. Little Jackie Grealish gets me another 5.
Yeah, I mean, he come out after the game because they give him man of the match. He went, I don't deserve this. It should have been Wharton, and fair play to it's not many times you hear players come out and go, well, I didn't deserve that, but.
From an England fan point of view, though, isn't it nice to see Jack Grealish play with a smile on his face?
There's a player there. With
a smile, like you can see him enjoying it. Do you know what I mean? For the first time since he was at Villa, or for maybe he smiled when he picked up the trophy at Manchester City, but for the first time,
he wasn't happy at City, and you can see he's sort of been he's been like, it's like a bird, an exotic bird that's been caged, has been let out now, and he's just roaming free, and you can just see. I've said this before. Jack Grealish, I know what a good player he is. I've seen him at Villa. I know he's fantastic. And I don't think we're going to recreate that form at Villa. But I still think there is, Everton have got themselves a really good investment there. I think, you can see Everton now, picking up results that I thought Everton were probably going to struggle before. I think this was obviously before the Jack Grealish signing. What a difference that one player makes. It just gives everyone a lift, doesn't it? It's got that confidence knowing that he's there, and it brings out the best in other players, and you can see that in the Everton team. And obviously David Moyes doing what he always does, gets a tune out of the team. They're performing well. Everton, in my opinion, are no danger of going anywhere near that bottom sort of 4 or 5, in my opinion now. I think they've got a good enough team.
Oh, yeah.
How far do you think Moyes can push that team? How far do you think up the table they can go? Because I'm quite impressed by how he set them out to it.
For me now, you look for the way they've started, and they've got to carry on, and they've got to be more consistent. But there's, you're looking at a top 10, aren't you? You're looking at maybe top 10, top 12 as a minimum. Maybe a good run in the FA Cup, or where I don't know if they're still in. I think they're still in the League Cup, aren't they? So you're looking at that, aren't you? If you're an Everton fan, you want to try and go far in a cup competition and just sort of maybe cement your place in that top 10 as a minimum, but as a maximum. Why can't you get into a Europa Conference League spot?
What do you think, Phil?
It's going to be.
I think that you're probably right, mate. I mean, your obvious answer is everybody in the league can win the league, can't they? So they can push them as far as they want to push to win the league. I mean, you've got a 50,000 seat stadium, and Everton's a well-backed club. But so it depends what period of time you're talking about pushing to, aren't you? But if you look right here, right now, in the next probably 5 years, you're going right. Well, we've talked before. You've got your big three super clubs, haven't you? Then you've got like Chelsea, Newcastle, Villa, Tottenham, maybe Man United coming back. So you're at 8 clubs already who you're not going to be better than. So you're probably saying Everton then fall into that next tranche, which is like your Bournemouth,
Palace,
Crystal Palace.
Bournemouth.
Yeah, the teams that you're in absolutely no danger of relegation, none at all. Just solid, your squad solid. You're going to get enough results to relegation, but you're not going to break into that top 8, top 7. Even if you drop Man United out, you're not going to break into that top 7. You're just not over 38 games going to break into that top 7. So you'd say absolutely maximum push, like you said, Nate, probably a cup run, and dreamland would be to finish 8th. Realistically, I obviously
I think Everton fans would probably accept that. You know, if
this time of year, I think you said earlier, Nate, it's a funny one, isn't it? We've had 7 games. You come after the international break, and a couple of the big boys draw a couple of games because they're playing each other. Like you said, Nate, you play, or like Man United playing Liverpool. And I think you said, Nate, you've got Manchester City and Liverpool, and you draw a couple of those games, and suddenly you drop some, and one of those teams wins a couple of games. You've got to leave the table for the first 12 or 15 games. It's all too congested to mean anything. It's like people in Bournemouth are in 4th or 5th. It's ridiculous. They're not going to finish in the top in those positions over 38 games. But are they capable of putting together a run of form and get? Of course they are, because we've already said any team in the Premier League can beat any team in the Premier League. But I think if you're Everton, if Moyes can get you, to Nathan's point, if Moyes can get you 8th, 9th, or 10th, and a decent cup run, you should be happy with that. Particularly after the last couple of seasons where
they've been under Daichi and everyone, like, you know, where they've been, you know, and obviously Lampard just about saving them from relegation. It's an absolutely massive improvement. You know, Moyes, for me, Moyes is the right. Everton and Moyes are just a match made. He knows the club inside out. He can get a tune out of the players. He's got a very good squad. The only thing where I do think that they do struggle is I think that the strikers aren't quite there. Obviously, Beto is a handful. I mean, and then the lad Barry, the sign from Villarreal. I don't think that, even though they've got Ndiaye and Grealish on either side of the wings, it's the focal point from where I think that they're not quite hitting the heights that they should be. But behind the attacking in the midfield, he's very good. Obviously, Dewsbury Hall, like I said, Ndiaye, Grealish, you know, some very, very good players in there. But no, I think if I were an Everton fan and you offered me 10th and a good cup run, I'd snap your hand off.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's pretty much that would be a good season for Everton, to be fair.
Yeah, I think we're in the world, aren't we? It just they're those level of teams. It's a bit like why the West Ham fans all went nuts about David Moyes when he won in Europe, and like we should be there. There's that tranche of teams out there where it must be shit to support them on one level, because you're never going to get not never. You're almost certain not to get relegated. You're equally as certain to not win anything. So you're starting off the season by mid-table being a good result. Not getting into Europe, but mid-table being what we're aiming at. Well, we've pretty much guaranteed. We've got this slot of teams now that are guaranteed mid-table, but are never going to be above it and never going to be below it. It's a weird place to be as a supporter. You can see why they get frustrated, but what do they expect? Because, like I say, you list off those 6 or 7 teams at the top, and you have to make an educated, like you said, no one's ever going to argue in the Premier League. Well, the reason we love it is because anybody can beat anybody. But you have to look at those top 7 teams. Like I said, probably put United in it realistically, as much as they got a manager who wasn't shit. And go right, realistically, over 38 games, those 8 teams are going to, barring something unbelievable, those 8 teams are going to do more than the rest. Like last season, you can take Man United and Tottenham's aberration out of it because the weird and wonderful happenings was the Europa League, and they did both get to the Europa League final. They both chose really early on to sacrifice the league for the Europa League. But from an educated position, you'd be like, if you get this right, there's no way over 38 games those 8 teams can get knocked out of those 8 top slots. They're just not. As much as we can enjoy Man United's up and downs, as much as we can enjoy as an Arsenal fan, Spurs dropping points when they shouldn't. As much as we can enjoy, me and you, Sean, laughing at Nathan because Villa had 2 or 3 bad results at the start of the season, over 38 games, those teams will be at the top. They will. That's why we banter each other, right? Because we know at the end of it we're going to end up towards the top anyway.
I think just turning it just from Everton, and I said this about Palace. I mean, they were unbeaten. They were unbeaten until obviously that result. They missed a hell of a lot of a hell of a lot of chances. Mateta in particular, which was
that one where he tried to dink the keeper and just chipped it into his hands.
It's just very unlike the way Palace have been playing. I mean, I think they were unbeaten for 19 games or
19 games.
Yeah, you know, I'm one of Oliver Glasner's fans. But I think you were looking at that result yesterday. You go 1-0 up, and you're thinking, we've created all these chances. We're gonna. If that's you know, 1 or 2 more of them goals go in, Everton don't get back into it for me. So I think it was unlucky for Palace, but you know, Palace, you know, they'll come back again after the international break. They've got some very good players. They've got a very good team, Palace. So,
although what I will say is, it was nice to reach Invincibles Day while still in October. Good to do it nice and early. No less sweating, more enjoying. Thank you. Only one little gold trophy for another year. Only one club in that club. Thank you.
Another 2 o'clock kick-off. We had my boys Newcastle comfortably win 2-0 against Forest. Full points.
Well then, Sean, tell us then. Give us the recap.
Comfortable after that VAR outrage for your first goal. Oh my God! I thought I was watching rugby league. What on earth was that? Bearing in mind the Nottingham Forest player had been booked for exactly the same tackle about 5 minutes earlier. Like, out fucking rageous from VAR. A genuine, like, I heard some shit on the radio this morning. Can't remember which referee was on, and I genuinely, you know, when like you nearly crash your car because you're laughing. He went, "Oh yeah, well as referees, we always strive for consistency." You're like, absolute bollocks. You can't even consistently referee one match, let alone the whole plethora of 10 matches. How on earth, in the context of that game, that's not a foul when the Nottingham Forest player got booked literally 5 minutes earlier for exactly the same thing, is outrageous. Now, that being said, it was clearly a penalty, and Voltemade clearly put the penalty really easily. So I'm going to class it as a 1-0 win for your boys, but carry on.
Did you deserve it in the end, though, Sean? Was overall from the game, was it a deserved performance, a deserved win for Newcastle?
Yeah, I think it was pretty comfortable, to be fair. Voltemade's penalty, if anyone saw it, what a strike. What a penalty.
I don't know how he managed to do it. I think he sort of like digs it into the ground and it just chips
I've
up.
seen it in a long time. It was brilliant. A fantastic penalty.
Well, Bruno, it was Guimaraes' goal. Brilliant goal, wasn't it? I don't know. That challenge from Anderson, though, for the penalty, like, as soon as he makes contact, you can see he's like, bollocks. There was no way that wasn't a penalty. And I think he'd hate to have done that against his former club as well.
Yeah, Agent Anderson. But yeah, comfortable 3 points for us, and a nice 2-0 result. Phil, 4 points for yourself. I predicted 1-0. Should have listened to my gut and gone 2-0, same as yourself.
Told you.
But yeah, I mean,
he got his record as well, didn't he? Did you know that? There's only Voltemade, Les Ferdinand, and Alan Shearer have ever scored on their first 3 matches at St James's.
So our striker's breaking records. Esok's not breaking a sweat. So, but yeah,
Postecoglou's under pressure.
Yeah, I mean, I watched Voltemade in Europe for us last week, and you know, he looked class, and I thought, you know, I've got to put him in. I thought he's going to score, and he did. Delivered me some nice points in the fantasy league. We'll come on to that shortly. Yeah, just Poch on the time. It didn't happen, did it? And I think he's going to get sacked.
It's not great if you're a Forest fan, is it? I think you've obviously seen, you know, obviously what Nuno's done, and then obviously Postecoglou comes in. The sort of expectation or the sort of the thing where Postecoglou thinks he can sort of have that free flowing attacking football like he had at Spurs when he first took over. He's a long way away from where Nottingham Forest are at the minute, and I think, you know, if you're a Forest fan, you're thinking, why have we just sat Nuno? to replace with Postecoglou. It's just a crazy decision. But Marinakis, very flamboyant as an owner, not scared to make decisions. And again, it could be, you know, a short stay for Postecoglou back in the Premier League again, because I think he's having talks over his future now. I do think what might happen is Marinakis is like, right, you've got 2 games. If you don't get those, you're gone. Because he's that brutal, isn't he? So
who do you replace him with? There's no one there.
I don't know, but I think Postecoglou is not the answer if I'm a Forest fan.
No, I don't.
I really
don't think so.
I just think if you're Marinakis, you must have had a plan. You must have had a plan in your mind as to what you anticipated he was going to do, and you'll have sat down, won't you, as part of the interview and gone, right, I want to give you the job. This is the squad. What are you going to do with him? And although we say it talks about his future, my expectation would be it talks about what he expects Marinakis to do in January. Because if I was Postecoglou, I'd be like, look, it's not my squad. I've been here a few weeks.
But
this is what I think is good.
They've spent a lot of money, Phil, though. They've spent an unbelievable amount of money.
He doesn't care about that, does he, Marinakis? Marinakis wants to win. Money's not an issue to him, is it? It's not.
But then when you think you've weighed up all that money for all these players that are on big contracts as well, you've got to use them.
But they're not Postecoglou's players, are they?
Well, I get what you're saying, but they're still going to have to be played. They're under the 26-man squad has been registered, isn't it? Apart from a couple that's going to go in January, you're stuck with that squad. So you've got to get used to these players. So it's hard. But yes, I agree. They're not his signings, but he's going to have to make them his, sort of his own and get them to play the football. But the way it's going at the minute, I don't think he sees the end of November, let alone January.
Oh. Strange is football, isn't it? And stranger things happen in football. But I just think if that's where we're at, it's a poor state of affairs, isn't it? Like I get it's not been impressive, and part of the pressure is because he brings all the antagonism that he was suffering at Tottenham with him, doesn't he? But
it's the overconfidence for me on Postecoglou, yes, and it's like that's why I was pissed off when he was like, I always win something in my second season and Spurs win the Europa League. But I think
he's been more humble this time, don't you think? Like he's come out his interviews like, what do you think of the fans booing? And he's like, well, as far as I heard his interview, he's like, well, yeah, the first time we've been at home for 3 weeks, we've just lost the match. I understand them booing. I'm not happy either. It's not something you want to do. You don't see. Now, he's not telling the fans to fuck off. He's not telling the fans to shut up. He's not saying they can't have an opinion. He's literally going, I get it. I understand why you're pissed off. You've got every right to boo because you don't want to see your team lose. We're pissed off as well. Like, he's not. That's what I mean about he's carrying the weight of what he did at Tottenham, isn't that? We all view him as too arrogant at Tottenham. But he hasn't interviewed that way at Nottingham Forest.
No, I do get
we're
that.
We're judging him from his time at Tottenham because it was so recent. We're judging him and going, like you said, his second season.
If you look back at some of the interviews, some of the players and coaching stuff I've done under McInnes, you might be inclined to believe that he's been told to keep himself quiet in that sense. And
that's a very good point, though.
There's nothing wrong with that, is there? Like if you get sat down, if you get sat down at work by your boss. And they go, right, this is what I want you to do. It's no different, is it? And like you would at work listen to what you were asked to do at work, wouldn't you? So why would Postecoglou be any different? If Marinakis is sat him down and going, look, you come in here, you keep your fucking mouth shut, you wind your neck in, and you manage how and he's gone, right, okay. Then Marinakis has got every right to tell him to do that, and also every right to expect him to listen and do as he's told, hasn't he? Because what we all forget in the bubble that is football is that all these players, all these managers, and I use the phrase lightly, but they're all just employees of a company. So why are we surprised they should have to follow the same rules as everybody else who works at a company? Like Marinakis has a right, to your point, Nathan, to run his business, Nottingham Forest, however he wants. And he should expect his staff to toe the line, which is exactly why Nuno got fired. Because I would have sat Nuno and go, what the fuck are you doing giving an interview saying that? Because you're bringing the whole club, making my whole club look stupid in the media. And maybe has sat Postecoglou down, maybe hasn't, maybe Postecoglou's learned his own lesson, but I still think we are judging Postecoglou by the fact we've all got prejudices from years at Tottenham.
No, it's
He
for
wasn't
me though.
racing money.
It doesn't look great as a new manager coming into a very good squad who played really well last season. You've not got a result in 5 or 6 games, and obviously
No, it doesn't.
you look at obviously the one for me was it the cup game against Stoke where you 2-0 up and then lose 3-2. Yes, I know there was a lot of changes, but that for me is telling you is like it's the adaptation of the players to his style. Maybe they've been that used to Nuno and what obviously Nuno was doing with the Forest squad were fantastic. It's
Last year,
just
I think last year you could see how Forest set themselves up. They were strong midfield to getting Anderson on the ball and creating low pockets, and they had a style of play. I can't work
well, they had
out
two
what
good
kind of
wingers, didn't they? So
yeah,
and then they obviously Gibbs White just playing just behind obviously Chris Wood. So they had a very, but they've still got some very good players, but they're just low on confidence in each one of them. With Villa, it's like when you don't win or you draw when you should have win, it just sets that little bit of even if I say disconfidence in the squad, believing that you're not going to get a result, and that's what happened to Villa at the start of the season. So but then you get that result. So maybe it will be a case of if Postecoglou does get that one win, it maybe sparks off, 2 or 3 wins on the bounce, and then all of a sudden, then Forest to back up the table, and then maybe get a good result in Europe, and then things change. But at the minute, it's just if you're a Forest fan, you're thinking to yourself, why have we sat new? And I know we take away the owner when Marinakis, what you were saying, Phil, but it's like, why have we sacked a manager that's got us into, the Europa League or conference? It should have been, we were on the cusp of Champions League football, and we've sacked him for a guy who's come in and can't get a tune out the team at the minute. It's incredibly frustrating. It could change. It's gonna go on either way, and you're either going to see Postecoglou lose his job and someone else come in, or he's going to turn things around, and Forest are going to start seeing a little bit more of a turn in results. But at the minute, it's hard to predict which is going to happen.
Let's hope it doesn't turn into the Watford carousel of managers at Forest. I do like Forest as a club. I think what they achieved last year under Nuno, I keep referring back to, but I thought what they achieved as a club last year was really good, really entertaining football to watch at times. But yeah, I guess we'll see after the international break whether Poch is still in the hot seat or not. Let's move on to yesterday's 4:00 kickoff or 4:30 kickoff. Brentford at home, hosting Man City. I don't even want to talk about my prediction. Phil, you put 3-1. Nathan, didn't get your prediction.
No worries.
What did you
I predicted a Man City win, to be fair.
5-1.
Did you predict? 5? Yeah, I did think I said at the time.
Last week, and I'm moving myself for it now. So yeah, highly embarrassing. But yeah.
Well, so what you both thought then is you both thought that obviously it was going to be a little bit more comfortable for City than probably what it probably was. I mean, I didn't watch much of the game. I ain't gonna lie. I did see the goal from Haaland. I think brilliant goal. I mean, the strength is showing. It's nice. I think I spoke about this on the last week's show. Like Haaland at the minute, seeing him in form, it's really good to see because I do think genuinely he's a world class, exceptional striker, and you can see he's got that hunger and grit and determination back. He's just what a world class striker does. I mean, he takes the goal well. He gets the result for Man City. And it's 3 points. Brentford is a difficult place to go because I know they've made it. I know obviously they've lost a few players this season, but Keith Andrews has still got a couple of decent results out of the team. But if you're Pep, probably you want more goals. But you come away with 3 points, and it keeps pressure on Arsenal. It keeps pressure on Liverpool. And like I say, you've got your star striker back in form, and then you've obviously got Rodri sort of getting back to full fitness, which is only a positive. I do worry even for the defensive wise for me, City. I know it's only against Brentford, but I still don't think the defence is as strong as what it's been in the past seasons. But still, it's Haaland took his goal well, and it's 3 points for City, so you'd be very happy if you Pep.
Brentford won't without the moment, so they had a couple of chances where they possibly should have equalised. Phil, are you worried about City creeping into the title race at all?
No.
Or are you comfortable in the fact that?
No, I'm not fussed in the slightest. I think as much as they can, Erling Haaland can't carry you through 38 games as well as he's playing, and he is in a right vein of form at the minute, and he looks unstoppable. But the defence still looks suspect. as much as they put Donnarumma behind it, the defence looks suspect. And I think probably the most crucial part of yesterday's game really was watching Rodri limp off again.
Yeah.
And how bad is that hamstring injury? You know, they've placed, you know, Pep's placed so much importance on Rodri's return and they have slightly rushed him back, because at the start of this season they absolutely guaranteed he wasn't going to play till October, and then they've pushed him to come back. I think midway through September. I think he played against us, didn't he? He certainly played some time against us.
It takes time when you've done your cruciates. It takes a massive amount of time to get back to that fitness.
Yeah, so I think, you know, that's probably the biggest thing, because I think without Rodri at the base of that midfield, their defence is going to continue to look suspect, and I think as long as it does. It's the old adage, isn't it? You know, you can try and do this, put all the pressure on Haaland, and you score 4 and we'll score more, but it's not sustainable in the Premier League. You're not going to score more.
It's not the Galactico Real Madrid spell, is it? So
no, and you look at the game on Sunday, and the reality is the score could have been what you predicted. City had enough chance in the first half; they could have put 4 or 5 past them, but they didn't. So you're not always going to take every chance you create. You might create enough chances for 5-0, but you're not always going to score them all. So I just think if your plan is to outscore the opposition, it won't work, and not in the Premier League, not over 38 games. And I just think that City aren't back to where they were. I think they're an absolutely phenomenal team. I think they're still, I wouldn't for 1 second question the top 3's in the Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City. But do I think Man City can keep hold of Liverpool and Arsenal across 38 games? No, I don't think they can do it. I think. And certainly not if they want to run the Champions League as well. I just don't think at the moment they can do it. Now, that's not to say players won't come back and that won't change their mind, but you're asking me right here, right now, today, can they do it at the minute? No, I'm not. I think, if I'm honest, this will come back to haunt me, won't it, and whatever, but there's nobody in the Premier League I think can stick with Arsenal over 38 games. Genuinely, I don't think they can.
At this minute, I don't think there is. Obviously,
you know, we talked at the start of the season about Arsenal having the most settled squad. They just had to get the attacking piece right. They seem to be doing that right now. Liverpool.
I think if you look at it, Phil, like we've just said that City's defence is shaky. You do a flip reverse to Arsenal, where obviously Arsenal have got the best defence in the league, probably Europe, in my opinion.
I think it's been over 3.5 years since we conceded 3 goals in a game.
And that's how tight you, particularly your centre backs are, because I know obviously the right backs and the left backs do get interchanged sometimes but you know, when you've got that solid pairing of Saliba and Gabriel, and that's what if Man City had that, then you'd probably be saying they would mount more of a challenge than just third or above. That you'd be saying City are going to be right there in that title race, but because of the defence is so frail, it's going to be really difficult, because they, you know, as good as City are going forward, they will leak goals this season. And I know they've got Donnarumma, but you know, we can't stop everything. So yeah, I don't think City are in it, like I say, and we did say, I think we said in the off season, you know, and I know you two still punted against Arsenal when we did our predictions and whatever, but I think we said in the off season, you know, Man City and Liverpool are going through a lot of change, and I don't think you can underestimate. Like I said, people sit back and go, "Oh, they're just all robots. It's fine. They brought in this player, they brought in that player. It'll all just work tomorrow." It doesn't work like that. And as I say, you know, you think about the Man City players' confidence as well. They've all known for weeks that Rodri's coming back. This big thing to hang their hat on. Rodri's back, and then he limps off with his what looks like a hamstring. Like, you know, it must knock their confidence as well, because suddenly he's not coming back, or he's certainly not coming back, and he's not fully fit. So you know, it affects you. You know, when someone's such a big talisman in the team. We've all played and worked in teams. When you've got that big talisman person who brings everyone, raises everyone else's level, and then they're not there, it plays on your mind. And you know, they are humans at the end of the day. So I just think City and Liverpool have got so much change to cope with. Again, I'm stacking the pressure on my own boys, aren't I? But they are dealing with more change fundamentally. Arsenal's first team from last season is still there. Like, they might have augmented it, they might have bolted extra players on, but the first team is still the first team. So they've got the most settled foundation, why they've got very few excuses this season, really. But yeah, I just don't think City are quite back to where they were to fully compete over 38 games. Not yet. I think maybe if Rodri gets back before Christmas and they're still within 4 or 5 points, or I think 5 or 6 points, whatever it is at the minute, if they can sustain the gap. And
It's the old
a reachable gap.
Well, it's the old classic for any race, isn't it? If you can just stay in someone's slipstream and stay close enough for that burst at the end, we all know City are capable of
Well, they
winning.
were known for doing it, wasn't they? They'd go on a run from February and March where they'd just steamroll and they'd just win every game.
Well, Alex Ferguson used to say it, didn't he? Alex Ferguson used to say the league didn't start until March, and he was happy if he was within 6 points of whoever was top by March. He was all right with that because he knew his team could win every game from March to the end of the season. And you remember that famous shootout that Liverpool and City had when they were, what was it, 13 games each they won on the trot or something ridiculous. Like, they're both capable of doing it. It's whether or not they can hang into the slipstream through these difficult dark months of winter, which they're the ones that set you up for the league to properly start, aren't they, really? Despite what Sky would have you say that the league's won and lost in bloody September, it just isn't, is it? So you can't fully rule anybody out, but do I think they've got as many tools as Arsenal have across a 38-game season? Not at the minute. I don't think they look settled enough. And fundamentally, I think the biggest statement of that was they came to the Emirates and parked the bus. Pep Guardiola has never in his entire career parked the bus. So that tells you where he thinks his squad is at, doesn't it? Like, that's not to say he doesn't think he can win the game, because clearly he came with a game plan to win it, but he clearly thinks his team were outclassed before they even set foot on the pitch. So
a long way to go. We're on in game week 7. So there is a long
way to go.
Phil, this week you scored 11 points. It's not bad.
Is that my best week? Must be my best week by freaking miles.
Yeah, I think it is your best week. 11 points.
Get in.
I got a subtle 8 points. Phil, that takes you. Well, you're still in the lead. 47 points total. 5-point gap between me and you. 42 points for myself. Nathan, you missed predictions. That's cost you dearly. You sat last with 37 points.
Oh, I'll call that back easy next week. Easy. I'll get everyone right this week. Next week.
Talking about pulling points back, Nathan, it's time you got a shuffle on with your fantasy team. Dead last in the league.
Yes.
Dead last in the league.
Yeah. It's not something I'm proud of. I'll try and rectify. I'll try and have a look and put some better players in. I think I'll stick Haaland in because he seems to be getting points, and maybe Fernandes or Caicedo.
They're calling it the Haaland show because everyone's got him in.
Well, that's it
Don't
now.
touch anything till after the internationals, Nate. You don't want him breaking his leg for Norway.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? You are absolutely right. You want to make sure that all your players, and this is just the point, not with fantasy football, is this is the thing for me now, is obviously it's an international break, and pointless friendly against Wales and then away at Latvia in the qualifiers. So you're just hoping that any of your players that are going to play internationally are not coming back either injured or carrying a knock or anything like that. You want them coming back unscathed because you want them fit for the next game of the Premier League. So it is always a bit of a despite whether you like international football or not, it's always a bit nervous when you've got a squad full of international players because you want your players to come back unhinged and unscathed. But we know that it doesn't work like that. We've all had players that have gone on international duty, picked up a knock or picked up an injury where they've been kept out for a few weeks, and it's just frustrating, isn't it? So let's hope that none of our squads suffer. So
there was some good high-scoring teams this week, especially me. 80 points, top of the pile still. Bruno Tanares, Danny's moved up to second, another big jump. 78 points scored this weekend. A shout out for Sarah, better late than, dragged herself all the way to 6th in the league.
She's very proud of that. I spoke to her today, and she was. She asked for a shout out because she was pointing out that she didn't start till a week after Nathan. I think she's 100 points ahead of him now, or something ridiculous.
She's a week behind.
Well done, Sarah. Well done. Let's see where you are at the end of the season, though. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Although she's more bothered that she's ahead of Jill. She's more bothered she's ahead of Jill. Jill was the ringer last season, wasn't she? But,
GB Wanderers has dropped down a place to 13th now.
You're lacking Jill. Come on, you need to get your skates on. Come on.
Who's winning the Bolton family war? They're all 3 of them in it, aren't they?
So that would be
Matt and Phil are all in it.
Gone back up 2 places to 5th.
Has he?
Yeah.
The young pretender, eh? I'll cut him down to size.
Fabian Hertzler.
I was more forgiving until I found out he was a Man United fan. Now not so much.
Bless
no,
him.
not so much.
It must be hard being a Man United fan. But at least he is top of the household, to be fair to him. For fair play, Matt, well done. Some good picks. Well, yeah, that's our catch up on Ice Fantasy. Obviously, my tip for fantasy this week is not to do any transfers. Just leave it as late as possible. Wait till the international break's over and then review your teams. Any tips from you guys before we go?
Copy your team selection because you're born lucky when it comes to fantasy football.
Put Haaland in your team. You get points. That's my prediction.
Yeah. Get that wild card played, Nathan. Get your full switch up done.
No. Yeah,
you do get to use most of the perks twice this year. One before the new year and one after the new year. So don't let your perks. Don't let them run out without using them. So if you do see an opportunity to use it, make sure you do use it. Bench boost is especially a good one to use if you've got a full squad of fit players on a double.
You haven't seen my bench. My bench will be no use to anybody.
But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed watching. If you have been watching, make sure you give us a like, make sure you subscribe, hit that bell so the next content that we upload, which will be a week after next for the next round of Premier League fixtures, you might see some bonus content in between then, who knows, keep your eyes peeled. But thanks again, Nathan and Phil, for joining.
Thanks,
cheers, guys. Thank you.
And enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll speak to you guys very shortly. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
See you, folks.